Hey y'all, I'm Ryan with the Baratza support team, and today I'm going to take you through my favorite way to brew using the Virtuoso Plus. This is sort of my go-to recipe for whenever I get a new bag of coffee and I'm still kind of figuring out what works best. I change a lot of the variables that I'll mention here based on what I'm tasting in the cup. So let me take you through my equipment here. I'm going to be using the Hario V60 size 02. I like the plastic because the heat retention just a little bit better than the metal or ceramic. I like brewing with the scale. Here I have the Acaia Pearl. This one works for me because it's super accurate and has a built-in timer. But if you don't have a scale at home, you can totally convert all these numbers to volume. This recipe will work best with a gooseneck kettle. My favorite is the Stag EKG from Fellow. And of course we have the Virtuoso Plus. This is an awesome grinder. It's got conical steel burrs that produces super even particle size distribution. It works great for me. It's got 40 grind settings with a humongous range, all the way from espresso to French press, and it's the longest standing grinder in our lineup, so it's tried and true since '05. In the hopper today, I've got a coffee from one of my favorite roasters, Olympia Coffee Company. This is their Ethiopia Benko. Sweet, so let's get started. I have my grind setting on 16 right now. That's what I found works best for this recipe. My dose today is going to be 20 grams, which I've programmed the timer knob on the Vert Plus for 7.4 seconds because that's what gets me just about 20 grams. So I'm going to grind here. While that was grinding out, I started folding my filter, and I'm also gonna pre-wet right now. Pre-wetting the filter does two things. It helps get rid of any papery taste that may end up in your coffee, and it also helps preheat the brewer and the carafe. I have my water setting to 210 degrees. This I find is a great starting point for me. Different water temperatures can bring out different flavors in your coffee. I wouldn't go any lower than about 198, but 210 is my favorite starting point. So I poured the coffee into the brewer here. I'm going to give it a shake. And before my first pour, which is going to be the bloom, I'm going to dig a little trench with my finger right here in the brew bed. The point of the bloom is to let all the coffee touch all the water as soon as possible and release CO2 and sort of get ready for extraction. So I'm going to tear my scale here and get started. I'm going to start my timer. I'm going to pour pretty aggressively here, trying to get all the water to touch all the coffee. My bloom is just going to be a standard double my dose, so 40 grams on the bloom. And I'm going to let this sit here and bloom for about 30 seconds. Right after I poured my water, I did a quick stir of the brewer. That's agitating the brew bed. I find that agitation works best towards the beginning of the brew and is best to taper off towards the end. We'll revisit that in a moment, but I'm going to start my second pour here, starting in the middle and then rotating outward and then back inward. Like I mentioned, this is a super simple recipe. It's just going to be 3 pours, so this is 2 of 3. And I'm going to take this one all the way up to 200 grams. When I'm pouring with my kettle here, I think it's pretty natural to want to go up and down as you go make your circles like this, but something I've been working on is keeping the kettle at a consistent height. This will help you have even extractions and repeatable brews. And I'm just going inward and outward from the center to the perimeter of the slurry here. And the slurry is just the mixture of coffee and water inside the brewer. So right after my first pour there, which is at 200 grams, I'm going to give a tiny swirl. And this is the last I'm going to agitate the brew bed. If I agitate any more, especially later in the brew, a lot of the fine particles are going to all rush to the bottom, and they can clog up the pores on the bottom of the paper cone, which can really draw out your drawdown time, and it can lead to over extraction and more yucky flavors. So agitate early, not so much late in my opinion. So I started my second pour here. at just over 1 minute, 30 seconds. Trying to keep the brewer at a level height and just doing those same circles inward and outward. I find that the best kettle height and flow rate here is so that your stream is as vertical as possible and just faster than when you start to hear the pitter patter like that. So I'm going to keep doing my circles here. Pour up to my target weight, which is going to be 320 grams. This runs us out for a super standard 1:16 coffee to water ratio. My target drawdown time is going to be close to 3 minutes, 30 seconds, but I find that it's best to think of your drawdown time as more of a result than an input. This is because this is highly dependent on the coffee you're using, how highly it's grown, how it's processed, the region, the variety of coffee. All that will have a huge impact on your drawdown time, not to mention your water, your grind, and your brewing style, and most importantly, your flavor preferences. So I've had coffees that drain in less than 2 minutes that tasted awesome, and I've had coffees that drain in more than 5 minutes. So it really just is a matter of flavor, and what you're tasting in the cup is always the most important thing. So just over 3 minutes is our drawdown time today. You can see a flat brew bed is a good sign of an even extraction, but it's not the only sign. Of course, you're going to have to taste it and see how you did in brewing there. But with a cone-shaped brewer like this, a little bit of funneling is okay. In my opinion, I think you can still have super good even extraction. I'm going to discard my paper filter and grounds and compost those and get ready to serve. Pro tip, I like to pour my coffee into a travel tumbler and pour from the tumbler into a smaller cup for a lot of little warm cups of coffee throughout the day. I'm going to serve here and enjoy. Thanks for watching.